Hey guys and girls, Board now back with you. On this video I will be reviewing the big new Disney release, Cruella, which has been released on Disney Plus Premium Access and into cinemas at the same time, and I've been to the cinema to see it tonight. I've just returned not too long ago, so I'm going to give you my thoughts fresh out of the cinema. Before I start, this review goes out to Torn, who also has a really good YouTube channel, much better than mine because I just talk gibberish, and I'll actually put the link to her YouTube channel in the description for the video because it's really worth checking out. You should check out her channel. It's really interesting and fun stuff. So check out Torn's channel. But this review goes out to her because I know she's a big Disney fan and she's got a keen interest on this film. Apparently 101 Dalmatians is her favourite Disney film, so I know she's sort of eagerly awaiting this with some nerves as well. And of course this is from director Craig Gillespie, who has done indie films really, like Lars and the Real Girl and obviously I, Tonya, that was a big Oscar contender a few years ago. So has a very sort of off-kilter, intense sort of indie vibe that he's trying to bring to this project. It's of course Emma Stone in the lead role as this sort of updating of the Cruella DeVille character, trying to bring a bit more of a kind of a sassy punk rock energy to it. And this is the origin stories of the character. I will say it's slight mild spoiler. I'll try not to spoil too much, but there will be odd sort of spoilers here and there. But it starts off with her basically from birth as a very young child and her upbringing with her mother, played by Emily Beecham, and how eventually one thing leads to the other and her mother ends up being killed in a suspicious incident and she has to fend for herself. She goes off to London, she gets taken in by a couple of other orphans, Jasper and I forget the name of the other one actually now, but played in adult form anyway by Joel Fry and Paul Walter Hauser. Really good actor, Paul Walter Hauser. And we see how she slowly develops into the villain that we know, Cruella DeVille, how she's taken into this prestige fashion house and is given a job as like a designer for this very superficial and aggressive socialite played by Emma Thompson, played brilliantly. You can't imagine anyone else in that role, and how the whole thing sort of develops and essentially one thing leads to the other. They develop a rivalry and we slowly see the backstory for how she became the Cruella we know. So that's the setup and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this movie. They cast it really well. I think Emma Stone is a great choice to play the role. I think what I really like about her, particularly in the first half of the film, is that when she first gets to London and she's a bit more down on her luck, a bit more sort of this nervous energy, then I think she really grounds the character. Like she gets a job as a maid originally, and there's a lot of physical sort of humour with her in those scenes where she's really a klutz, but she's a very entertaining and likable klutz. She sort of grounds the character and does give it quite a sort of a working class sort of feel, or quite a relatable sort of feel, compared with obviously the lavish richness which is sort of around her and the job with the Emma Thompson socialite, who, as I said, is on tremendous form. And it's almost like a role reversal. It's almost like the Emma Thompson character is kind of what we think of as being Cruella DeVille, and at least at the start of the film, the Emma Stone Cruella character is very different. There's themes of like, you know, sort of class, but also to do with riches and fame, that kind of thing. Nothing too subtle in this sort of a movie, but they are sort of there if you watch them, if you look for them. And there's great chemistry between her and Emma Thompson. They really fizz off each other very well. And one thing they do, which I sort of dawned on me, I never really thought of it, and I'm pretty sure it's not really a part of like the older Disney films, is that because you've obviously got the black and white streak down her hair, that being Emma Stone as Cruella, then they do play on this her being sort of torn between the good and the bad, the more modest character and the sort of in your face like punk character. And it's something they do actually, like it's almost like she's got a split personality at different times, and it's something I quite enjoy. It's nothing original, and there's very little original about this movie, but for what it does, it's a very enjoyable movie. Good cast overall, some really well down to the smaller part, like Mark Strong is very very good as always. He's a reliably good sort of character actor, and the whole vibe of London in the 70s. Now I think it's very heightened and fabricated for the film, but just the style of it and the use of music, and this is one of the best soundtracks I've heard in a really long time. You've got people like Queen and the Electric Light Orchestra, the Rolling Stones, you've got Bowie on there, you've got Supertramp, all sorts. And the music is really well used in the film. There's some great sort of set pieces, some very physical and eye-catching set pieces, a particular sort of scene with the use of the Electric Light Orchestra. But there's some great music and it's really well done. There's actually like an original song used for the film called Cruella, which is like a title thing, which I really liked as well. And it's just very colourful, and the costumes are just like brilliantly decided. There's no expense sort of spared on that, and it really brings the whole thing to life. And there's a very, tongue in cheek sort of punk rock, feminist sort of feel that they've put on this character and on the feel of the film. And not all the jokes work. There are some times when it's a little too out there, or it does slightly lose its way. The script is a bit sort of ragged, and there's certain jokes that don't work, but there's enough that do, and it makes it a really fun time, and really nicely directed, very eye-catching, as I said, and some smart humour, some dark humour at times as well. There's a particular, gag about the Dalmatians and them being kind of used for fur, which is actually really dark, and just the use of that song "I Want to Be a Dog." So it's a very entertaining film. It's very eye catching to look at, as I said, well cast. I think also the moment where she transforms into Cruella, which there's a particular reason for in the script, that's really well handled, and it's a real eureka sort of moment, and she really comes alive, and she just sort of grabs the film by the balls at that point. She just sort of comes alive, and you just believe in the transition. It's a really exciting sort of moment. And the film's not perfect. I thought it took a bit of time to get going. I thought the early stuff, particularly with her as a kid, there was some clunky sort of setup type stuff that you tend to get in origin stories. And I think there's certain stuff with like the Dalmatians and with her mother which wasn't really needed. And then there's a later reveal with the Emma Thompson character, which again, I don't think we really need it. It's just something to add a little bit of like extra motivation, but it's a really fun movie. I think maybe a bit overlong. It could have been shorter, but I guess these sorts of origin type films tend to be. But anyway, really good fun, really well directed, good characters, and they've cast it perfectly, which is the main thing. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up. It's just a very entertaining film for me, and one I would watch again, and I think I'll definitely buy the soundtrack. The soundtrack's really good stuff, but yeah, I'm gonna recommend it. That's my review of Cruella, and rating wise, I'll give it 7.5 out of 10. It's a very strong and definitely a good one to see in the cinema because of all the colour and the energy and the music of it. So do go out and see it in the cinema because at the moment, also, it's cheaper in the cinema than on Disney Plus because they're charging a fair bit on premium access. I think it's the end of August where it becomes free on Disney Plus. So, but yeah, see it in the cinema. It's really worth seeing. But thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more new movie reviews soon. See you later, guys. Goodbye.